Hey guys, this is Casby with Tape, and today you join me for episode 7 of Kerbal Rising, and we do indeed have a problem. We have been attacked around Moho by a mysterious ship that took out our Beluga-class corvette defending the space around Moho. It appears that it tried to fire back with its missiles but was unsuccessful, and was destroyed by missiles, and then rather terrifyingly, the enemy ship vanished. We cannot find it, we cannot see it, but we do know that it entered the system using a Kerbstein drive, and has some crazy stealth technology. So, we have been attacked by some other highly advanced civilization, with technology on par and maybe even ahead of our own. So, we're deploying a Cyclops-class frigate Mark II, with a 55mm railgun, and 3 anti-ship lasers to defend against anything that may come, and hopefully chase off that ship or defeat it if it attempts to attack us. But with the frigate in orbit of Moho defending the space, we send our expeditionary force further into the solar system. It cannot help us at Moho now, it's too far away, and we will not be deterred by this attack. We will build ourselves a home fleet for that kind of work. This fleet, however, is heading to Jool, over the empty space between Butai and Alum, and then on to Jool. Alum, of course, or Alum, of course, the dwarf star, which you can actually just see in the middle of the screen here. Very not bright compared to the sun itself, but still a bright little dwarf star, or, well, brown dwarf? I don't really know. But anyway, on to Jool. Jool is currently colonized by a group of Kerbals calling themselves the Celestial League. We believe them to be the remnants of the old world of the Clothulian nations which first colonized Lathe. And, of course, we are not a fan of Clothu. We must settle a score once again. So we move in to attack our enemies, opening up with a missile salvo. 4 small missiles and 2 large missiles from the UFN Cyclops, to go in and try and destroy the enemies, because they have they have 2 fleets around Jool. This is the smaller of their fleets, but it is a dangerous one. It is actually, it has 2 very armoured skiffs, an armoured corvette, and an armoured frigate with twin railguns, which we don't really want to face, so we're going to try and take out this frigate early. However, with slight improvements to laser technology recently and totally not figuring out how to make weapons work, they start hitting us with lasers from 10 kilometers out. Straight away they're doing damage to our missiles, and that's why we fired the smaller missiles first, to just try and kind of distract the lasers, and then using the bigger missiles to hopefully take out that frigate, because it is a dangerous ship. However, this doesn't go entirely to plan, and some of the larger missiles do start taking hits, because there are a lot of lasers in this fleet, and they are doing damage, and the railguns are actually getting pretty close. In fact, I'm pretty sure that railgun just took out a missile right there. Pretty worrying. Anyway, we're just trying to balance our speed and our intercepts. The small missiles, apparently I forgot to fill up with monopropellants, so that's not great, but they don't really have to hit. It's more about getting the big missiles into the frigate, because it's armoured and it's dangerous. But you can see we're already losing warheads to these lasers, which is worrying. However, we are getting close, and we do have some active missiles. I think some of the small missiles still actually have warheads, and both of the big missiles, I believe, have their warheads. And we're just going to follow this one in now. It is the last missile, and it actually looks, although some missiles are exploding, a few of them do strike the frigate before this one goes in, and actually open up the frontal section of the ship so that this one can slip right in the ring and take out the cockpit, destroying the frigate before it even has a chance to put fire on our actual fleet, leaving us just to deal with the smaller ships. And you can actually get a look at some of the ships now. They are extremely beautiful. Clearly a league of vanity, but these are extremely beautiful ships, and actually the ring is a pretty good defensive structure now I think about it. Anyway, with the big frigate destroyed, we move in now. First with the destroyer opening up with its 155mm railgun, able to fire from 20 kilometers away, doing extreme damage as those rounds fly at Mach 7, which is pretty serious. When we get a little closer though, the frigates also start opening up, actually a little early. They have a 15-kilometer range, but they start firing early, I guess, and the rounds won't hit, but it's fine, we've got tons of rounds. But anyway, we keep moving in, opening up, trying to do some damage. You can see the 155mm railgun and 55mm railgun firing at the same time right there, with obviously the 155 being much faster because it's just a bigger gun, I guess. These 55mm are pretty small, but effective. It looks as if we have destroyed the Corvette already. We must have hit it fairly, maybe in the cockpit or something. Well, it looks like it split apart the ship, so maybe the rear section of the ship, which holds the ring together, has been destroyed. And then it's just a matter of taking out the Corvette, the skiffs even. They, however, take a massive amount of fire because they have 500mm of armor. So we need a slightly quicker solution. We're obviously drifting towards them, and we don't really want our big ships ripped apart by lasers before we can tear them apart. So I'm going to send in the Corvette and the skiff to try and do a bit of fast attack with their smaller guns. Not massively effective against armor, but the skiff has been very useful in the past for putting down serious damage on ships from close range. So that's what we're going to try and do. Of course, we will take fire on the way in, and it does risk our ships, but it is vital that we take out these skiffs before we get too close. So we move in quite a clip, but start taking fire rather quickly. You can see the laser is attacking the skiff. The skiff is entirely unarmored, and it's actually our oldest ship. The Beluga-class Corvette, however, does have 300mm of armor. This is a very, very armored ship, which is useful because it will be getting close to enemy ships in battle. But it can't take fire forever. But if we get, now we're in within 8 kilometers, we can open up with our 30mm and hopefully do some damage, and hopefully distract the lasers a little bit to try and get the skiff close to lay down a huge amount of 20mm fire. We do try and slow down though, because we don't want to get right up closer to them, because the closer you are to a laser, the more deadly it is. The skiff, however, does have to get close to use its weapons, so I'm actually doing a few maneuvers to try and sort of balance where I'm taking damage from the lasers so that it isn't destroyed straight away. So you can see I'm just moving to, well, pick where the lasers hit me. But once we're within 2.5 kilometers, we open up with the 20mm Vulcan turrets and start hitting the ship quite a lot. I'm not sure exactly how much damage this does, but it should scare them at least. It should put holes in their ship. It'll be fine. But yeah, there's just a massive rate of fire on these things. Obviously, there's a bit of lag, so it's not quite as much. But we start taking serious damage, losing bits, and eventually, actually, we lose our engine. As it explodes there, the connector is broken, and we are now stuck. This skiff will probably, and actually is, destroyed on the way past, which is not fantastic, because it's our oldest and one of our most successful ships, actually. But eventually it does have one of its weapons and reactors stripped off, and it's now just got one gun, but keeps firing till the end, actually. It's taking more and more damage, but just maintaining fire on these skiffs. They are starting to take damage, and are getting hit by that 20mm, but it is going to take a little while to take these things out, because they are, well, 500mm of armor is ridiculous. It is just stupid. It is ridiculously hard to kill, especially these smaller ships. And somewhat more worryingly, our Corvette has started to take extreme damage, so we need to retreat with this Corvette. We don't want to lose this as well as that skiff. I kind of expected to lose that skiff, but it only cost about 3 points. So it's not that bad, and it did do some damage, but this can escape and is no longer much use to us. You can see it's taken damage, it's lost radiators, and is getting hit a lot. Some of these parts are about to break, but it does manage to escape. And then it's just a matter of trying to destroy these skiffs. This is just a cut down little section of it getting just slammed by just over and over by railgun fire. Eventually taking off part of the frontal armor, and then after much more fire, we do eventually destroy this skiff, leaving only the other skiff. Oh my god, it took so long to kill them. More rounds going in. This is obviously cut down again, and after a ridiculous amount of 55 and 155 fire, it eventually gives up the go and is destroyed. So the fleet around Bop is vanquished, and that only leaves the ground forces on Tylo, the ground forces on Lathe, and the fleet around Lathe, which is much more deadly than this fleet, and this actually did do some serious damage to us, and was very hard to take out, so we might actually wait a while before heading down to Lathe. Anyway, heading back to Butai, we left the UFN Hercules, one of our carriers, the one that actually has guns, so it can stay by itself, around Butai, because we didn't finish off the ground forces around Butai last turn. We took out the fighters, and I think we I think we just took out the fighters. But now we need to take out the naval vessel, which is sitting on the surface of Butai, along with a missile battery. So we're sending in our P2 Buzzard, our tactical bomber, to unleash hell upon them. This is loaded with like 8, 10 Maverick missiles, something like that. Maybe more, probably could have more. But anyway, it has a bunch of Maverick missiles to hopefully take out the forces on the surface. On entry, it gets a little flippy because I entered at a stupid angle, but eventually I do gain control by, well, mostly just firing the engines to force myself forward like a lawn dart. This has proved quite effective in the past. This tactical bomber has taken out ships before, but on Eve, where it's extremely easy to avoid missiles because they can't turn very fast, but you can. So, yeah, hopefully it will work on Butai, which is a Kerbal-like planet, and, well, a Nebos-like planet, or a glorious Federation of Nebos. But yeah, anyway, eventually we get nice and close to the ship and start lining up our little laser pointer. What is it? It's a targeting ball. I'm just going to call it a laser pointer. It's just a guy out the window like, is that it? Just fire there. And, yeah, we're going to try and find that ship. And lay down some fire, because what you have to do for Maverick missiles is find the target with this little targeting ball, lock the target, fire the missiles, hang around for long enough because you've got to keep telling the missiles where to go, and then hopefully escape. However, this ship has a bunch of intercept missiles and 2 goalkeeper cannons for shooting down missiles, and its little friend there, the missile battery, also has a bunch of intercept missiles, so it might be a little difficult. Anyway, we do lock our target, and now we can open up our cargo bay, which actually opens on both sides for some reason, and start firing some Maverick missiles. We are starting to take fire from intercept missiles, but it shouldn't be a problem. We can avoid them. We let loose a few salvos to try and space the missiles a bit so that if one is destroyed, they're not all destroyed. And then we're going to keep a couple for coming back and dealing with that missile battery. But obviously a ship is pretty tough, so we're going to want to take that out. Take that out first and give it most of the missiles. Anyway, now it's just a matter of avoiding the Pack 3 intercept missiles. I brought a bunch of flares and chaff and some refills, so I have no problem avoiding the first salvo. Just dive low, pull a nice maneuver, and pop a bunch of countermeasures, and they lose their track pretty quickly. However, another one does try in and come and kill me, but I have no problem avoiding that. Just pop some flares. However, they continue to fire missiles, and apparently the chaff and flare refill boxes don't actually refill automatically. You have to do it manually. So at this point, I'm out of countermeasures and a bit fucked, because there's a whole bunch of missiles coming for me, and this plane isn't particularly maneuverable, really, for, well, it's maneuverable for a bomber, but not for, like, a fighter. So the missiles find their mark and destroy the bomber, which is a problem for 2 reasons. One, that's my bloody bomber, you bastards. Secondly, you actually, with Maverick missiles, you have to hang around to tell them where to shoot the whole time until they've landed. So these missiles might not hit. Luckily, they got pretty far and are pretty much just on a ballistic arc at this point, so should find their mark if we're lucky. But the ship starts laying waste to them with its 30mm goalkeepers and starts just, well, destroying missiles. However, there are a lot of them, so I'm hopeful that some of them will hit, and it looks like this final salvo of 3 actually will make contact with the ship, and indeed they do, destroying this little frigate. Not destroying the hull, but destroying all of the systems on it, and actually doing a serious amount of damage to the hull. So, Butai is a little closer to being liberated, but it will take a little longer. So that's a little annoying, but nonetheless, a fairly successful episode. I think we've done fairly well today. We took out a pretty tough fleet around Bop. Whoever made those ships, by the way, they're goddamn beautiful and very tough. I like them a lot. But I think we got fairly lucky getting enough missiles in there. But I'm pretty happy with that. But we are going to hold off a little bit because we don't want to overreach and lose our fleet down around Lathe, because they have some serious stuff down there. More than double the amount of weapons that, they had around Bop. So that's going to be problematic. We'll continue to try and take Butai. That was a little problematic. And of course, there is some evil other power in the solar system. So we're going to have to root that out, figure out where that stealthy ship came from, and hopefully track it down and destroy it. But the problem with stealth ships is they're quite hard to track down. We're thinking maybe it came from Scorch. We've seen a lot of activity around Scorch. We maybe send some ships to go and see what's happening there. But for now, we're just going to build up our home fleet a little bit. But anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this episode. I have very much. I hope you will come back for next episode. Next episode, though, by the way, will be a little while from now. So, as a lot of you may know, I am starting a new job and going to Ireland for 7 weeks to do my training, so won't be able to really record any Kerbal Rising. In that time, there'll of course be Penguin's episode, but my episode won't be out for maybe 2 months. So don't hound us too much. That is the situation. Just thought I'd let you know. I know I'm breaking my UFN fourth wall right here, but I thought you should know that because, well, I don't want you wondering where it is. Anyway, though, I hope you have enjoyed today's episode. I hope you're happy with our progress, and I will see you next time.